Season 6, Episode 8, A Hearth-Warming Tale. This is the episode in which we receive a retelling through a book that Twilight's reading to Starlight about Hearth-Warming Eve and the way that it worked back in the day, and this tale about Snowfall, I think was her name. I wrote it down somewhere in my notes. Snow Dash? No, Snow Dash is Rainbow Dash. Yeah, Snowfall Frost, I think was her name. It doesn't matter. Point being. You know, woo! It's a Christmas episode. Snowfall. Okay, Snowfall. This is a musical episode, and one of 4 acknowledged musical episodes. Also the last one. Now, the only reason I even bring this up is because it actually kind of weirds me out, since I don't like musicals, generally speaking. Obviously there are exceptions. But just musicals as a format aren't really my thing. And yet, of the 4 musicals, we have Magical Mystery Cure, which I liked, Pinky Pride, which I don't remember which one that was, if I'm being completely honest, Crusaders of the Lost Mark, aka one of my favorite episodes ever, and this episode, which I also rather enjoy. I love the idea of them using the castle for this. It makes... Oh, the cheat... So I like that episode too. So I like all 4 of their musical episodes. The idea of them using the castle for this makes perfect sense, and is the kind of thing that I kind of hope we see more of in the future, because she has this big, open, gigantic, empty castle. Right? Giant castle. It's space everywhere. It makes perfect sense to use that for community affairs, right? For people to just hang out and do things in. I don't know, it's the kind of thing that it's kind of little, dinky little world building I like. I do also like how they do this big song number, and then it's like, hey, Starlight, aren't you ready to join us? Nah, I think I'm going to turn in early. And they're all shocked. I'm not sure why, though. If I might be so bold, someone like Starlight probably isn't exactly big on holidays to begin with. But, well, let me just quote the episode here. Right at the beginning, she says, near as I can tell, it's a day dedicated towards presents and candy. Spike's response, of course, is, why would you deny yourself presents and candy? Spike has a point. But then, hang on. But then, Twilight jumps in and says, no, it's a time to spend with friends and family. Yeah, why would Starlight, of all people, during her career and her life that we know about, not want to spend times with friends and family? Anyways... So Starlight gives a quick recap on the Wendigos and the relevance of that. And as per usual, we have representative storytelling instead of literal storytelling, with each of the cast members playing a role in the past, which makes sense. I'm with it. Totally down. Diamond Tiara and her mother were there. Did you catch that? Just a nice little thing. So what the heck is the parent map? Obviously, I haven't seen Season 8, so I suppose I have no idea what you're talking about. So then we have a brief thing where Twilight starts gushing about Starswirl the Bearded. And I have a question. Do you think they did that on purpose? Now, I'm not going to give away too much because I am trying to avoid spoiling stuff in the future unless it's relevant for discussing the now, but it is worth noting that they have spent quite a while, since Season 2, arguably, building up Starswirl the Bearded, and Twilight's fangirling over Starswirl the Bearded. And I find myself wondering how much of that was deliberate, how much of that was they knew they were going that direction, since by now we're at the point, as of this point in Season 6, where the show was okay to have been canceled twice. That being said, Twilight specifically gushing about this, what I'm trying to say is I think this is actually both. I think what happened here is that they just had that as a character trait because, you know, we all have our heroes, right? And then sometime, possibly now, they had already mapped out where they're going, since we know by this point they had planned for multiple more... Yeah, at this point they knew they were going up to 9 seasons. They knew they were not getting canceled anytime soon, and so had the availability to lay seeds early for this kind of thing. Ergo... So I think it's both, personally, but I don't know. It would be interesting to tell. Either way... So then we have song stuff. There's this nice little tidbit here, which I'll cover in a minute. But she says that singing songs and being nice won't solve anything. Forgive me for disagreeing, but that works in real life, never mind in frickin' Equestria. Maybe not the singing songs part, but people being nice to each other has, historically speaking, led to most of the good stuff that's happened in human history. She, of course, then gives her party line, which is work hard, learn, and use your skills to better Equestria. What's interesting about that is that's not a particularly villainous goal, even though she has the evil main style. It's still just kind of an idea to, I must make Equestria a better place for the greater good! Or, sorry, getting ahead of myself. Either way, she then starts her song, where she turns into the Grinch for a few scenes. And there's two little moments that I really like here in the song. First, words said so often they lack any meaning. I'm actually completely with that. I have a rule. Originally I got it from my mother, admittedly, but I stand by this rule to this very day. And that is, don't say something unless you mean it. This might actually be one of the reasons why I'm not a good liar. Oh, I can lie, I just can't lie effectively. Because, let me use a direct example. Don't say thank you unless you're thankful. Don't say you're sorry unless you're sorry. And don't say happy holidays unless you frickin' mean it. That's the general idea, the mentality behind that. So I'm actually kind of with Starlight on that, because, I mean, in my opinion, a lot of people use a lot of these phrases and words and don't mean them at all. And of course, now she has no need to reply to their trite invitations, another line I wrote down, because apparently she predicted COVID. The interesting take on the Grinch, and notice the Wendigos showing up during the spell, probably should have been a sign, but let's ignore that. Instead, what we have is Applejack shows up, like her outfit. Excuse me, the ghost of Princess Past. Wow. The ghost of Christmas Past. Or, excuse me, Hearthwarming Past? Alright, whatever. Point being, she shows up. Nice outfit. I like how they showcase how horrible it feels, probably, to have a ghost walk through you. This leads me to... We're going to hit the stream breaks for a minute here. We're going to talk about world building for a second. Because we have a question before we get to the song, and that is... How, do you think this event actually happened, the book she's reading? Now, to my knowledge, the Wendigos are real. Although, it is worth noting that, also to my knowledge, that was never 100% confirmed. So, it's possible that what we're reading is this... It's one of those situations where, you know, Wendigos exist? Sorry. Where Wendigos do exist, but the specifics have been kind of muddled over years of vocal storytelling and writing down things in books and stuff. So, it's entirely possible that Wendigos are real, is what I'm trying to say. And in fact, I wouldn't surprise me if they are. But, asterisk, I would also say that it's equally probable that most of the specific events in the episodes we've actually seen prior to this aren't literal. That this is a tale, not a story, to use my own terminology. Why is that relevant? Because there's 3 spirits in this episode. That's big. That's actually huge from a world-building perspective. Because either these are the dead who are sticking around, which is bad enough in its own right, or these are some kind of extra-dimensional entities which still exist and coexist with regards to certain concepts and ideas, which would basically make them Loa, which I'm down for. But also, this is, and I actually sat and thought about this, and please feel free to correct me up to Season 7, but near as I can tell, this is the only evidence anywhere ever that spirits, or Loa, actually exist within the setting at all. In any real format. I'm going to hesitate for a second, and let y'all jump in and tell me how dumb and stupid I am. based on how I'm constructing this argument, you could probably see why I think that this is a tale and not a story, that these events did not actually happen, but that the Wendigos probably do actually exist, which is, you know... And you could see how this story could be developed from the real reality of Wendigos. Because that's what a tale, especially a morality tale, was designed to do historically here in real life. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, morality tales were designed to try and get across an idea so that in a way that was entertaining and easy to learn and memorize, so that they would know how to do something. Effectively trying to establish what is, for all intents and purposes, a law, except a cultural law rather than a written, enforced by military kind of a law, right? You know, you have to continue hanging out and being friends and partying and all this fun stuff and having these good vibes between people. Otherwise, the Wendigos show up. You see how this parallels almost one-to-one, which is why I think this is a tale and not an event that actually happened. That the spirits don't exist, that there was no snowfall, and there was no event where she nearly wiped out the future. But that the Wendigos are real, and the threat is real, and that's why the tale exists, is to warn people of it and remind people of it. Sense make? Now that's my take on it, though. That's my personal impression on this one. But that's important to establish, because again, if spirits are real, that's a game changer. There's plenty of settings where spirits don't exist at all. And so simply introducing that kind of species into it is a and can cause many other different things with regards to theory crafting to blossom up. But as I said, I don't think they are, and I don't think they do. My take. Where the hell was I? Alright, so, blah, 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 blah. So, Applejack's song. I don't have much to say about the songs. I could dissect them. I doubt anyone would find that particularly interesting. It is fascinating how the tone of each of the songs, hi Mr. Red, jumps around in presentation and how it goes. You know, each song tries to get across a different narrative and a different tonal point to kind of move the viewer, as well as Snowfall, kind of like this throughout the course of the episode. It's a good path. Because, you know, they start up kind of early on. They start here. I think I actually missed a dip there. Because they start here, and they kind of dip down for the villainous song, which I forget the name. I wrote it down. Actually, I have a list up here just so I get the song names. Say Goodbye to the Holiday. That's the song. And then Seeds of the Past episode kind of... The Seeds of the Past song kind of evens out a little bit. It seems like it's more positive, but ultimately all it really does is plateau a bit down here in terms of tone, because it's trying to address what happened to her in her past, in her life, and I'll discuss that in just a moment. And yeah, that's a great series of lines, Act. I'll say those out loud for anybody not reading chat on the VOD. Then some distress, words so careless, standing there you don't know what to do, feeling helpless. That doesn't sound right. Hang on, I think that's being formatted terribly. Let me just pull up the song over here. Then some distress, words so careless, standing there you don't know what to do, feeling helpless, you can't make it hurt less, so you go and change your point of view. And in that moment, though you didn't know it, your defenses set up walls you built to last, leading to the pony you've become today. The spell you're about to cast, it all comes from your past. So, again, trauma, personal danger, stuff I'll talk about in just a moment, and plateauing the tone. The very next song is Pinky's, which skyrockets the overall tone and pace, the energy, all the way up to the thing. Obviously, it's Pinkie Pie, that makes sense. But there's a lot of energy and excitement and happiness and bouncing around in the thing, which then, of course, serves as immediate, beautiful contrast to the plummet into Luna's song. And then it ends on the high note, on the rising high note with the last song. We'll cover some of those songs in specific as we go. But the first thing I want to talk about... what is with all the horrible teachers in this setting? Like, I expect that of real life. Why are there so many bad teachers in frickin' Equestria? I know, it's a tale, and by my own evidence, I think it never happened. But, what the hell is this guy's problem? God! You are worthless and terrible, and you should go shove your head into the snow. Slight exaggeration. What I will say about this is this. What's really messed up about this scene, and the thing I wanted to talk about, is the fact that this is not an isolated incident. What I mean by that is, even though the episode rushes too much, I agree with Wee Odds on that, this could have easily been a two-parter. The fact of the matter is, it is shown rather well that this is not one moment that sets off this horribleness. Instead, remember, young Snowfall already knew the quote word for word, you know, you must work to better Equestria, that whole quote, right? She knew that word for word when prompted, which means he's been beating this idea into her for some time. So we get the impression that he has been grinding her down for a while, and this is just her final barrier breaking, and finally she's just like, alright, fine, I'm done. And she finally gives up and acquiesces to this, as we just talked about it with the song lyrics, you know, changing your point of view on that, throwing up the defenses. So that's messed up, and a nice showcasing of why I tend to get so damned defensive when it comes to kids, especially in real life, because it's not that hard for regular and repeated interference from adults to mess with them. And then we punch them. Punch. Equestria is the Harry Potter afterlife. I could think of worse fates. So, yeah, sorry, to clarify, I thought that was clear, Lord Harriman. To clarify, we're punching some adults, not the kids. Kids were taken care of, that's the whole point. So then that happens, and then we get to Christmas presents. No, not present. Presents. Damn it, Pinky. I don't have as much to say about this particular song. It is a decently constructed song, very high tempo, very high energy, very happy, very bouncy. Nice little cameo from Twilight as Pinkie Pie. Right, I unfortunately, it's a very joyful song. I just don't have so much to talk about it. With one little concept, actually two little side notes here. 3, apparently. 4? Whatever. The point being, first of all, apparently Twilight has been singing these songs for Starlight. Now, we all know the trivia that Tara Strong originally tried out for Pinkie, and she does a pretty good Pinkie Pie voice in this episode. But what I mean is that Twilight does the repeat of the song, and while that's obviously just a nod and a joke, I like to look at that and think, is she actually singing these parts of the story for Starlight in-universe? Given that we know that them bursting into song is an in-universe thing that has happened and will happen in the future, there's also the fact that it just fits so much with pony lore and my idea that this is a tale, that a song would be built into it. That there might literally be lyrics in that book that she is singing along to. Doesn't that just make sense? I mean, we have that here, in real life, never mind in a setting like Equestria. And again, not to rehash my theory again, but that once again re-emphasizes the idea that this is a tale intended to be repeated to people, especially children, so that they can remember this, and so they can, you know, keep to the morality play that is part of the morality tale, so that they can keep the Wendigos at bay. So, you know, everything lines up. Chunk, chunk. Yeah, Twilight is more than capable of actually using magic to kind of put on a little display. Oh yeah, Spike's awesome in this episode. I don't have much to add to that. He's just hilarious in everything he does. We also see DJ Pones and Octavia in this episode. That was kind of neat. Along with Diamond Tiara and her mother. Nice little thing. And a animation glitch. Pony's talking here. I saw that one too. But the... yeah, this is how you write Spike. This is good. I like this. The other thing I wanted to mention, though, this is the big one. The gift doesn't matter. The meaning of the gift matters. I'm about halfway with that. I've shown this off before, and so forgive me for bringing this out yet again. I actually have several things like this. This is a worthless rock that has zero value to anything or anyone for any reason. However, this was something that my niece gave to me because she knew that I was really big into rocks, and I shared that with her, and she remembered it, and so she wanted to give me something that I would like. The meaning of this gift matters so much more than the fact that it's just a shell of a geode, right? I mean, I could probably buy this for 20 bucks. 20 cents back in the day. I could probably buy it for $1 now. Well, I used to be act. I had to learn that one. I think I've talked about that before. But I mentioned that, though, because there is meaning in... The meaning of why and how you give the gift mean a lot, is what I'm trying to say. Possibly more than the gift itself. The only reason I add that asterisk is because life is complicated, and buying someone a rock or buying someone a Nintendo Switch isn't really the same thing, because, you know, this is a few $100s and is obviously something that's going to have more tactile value, but both sides do matter, right? A rich dickhead who has never met his grandchild, who decides to buy that grandkid a Nintendo Switch because it's what you do, has less meaning than, I'll just use myself, me buying my niece a Nintendo Switch because I want her to get into video gaming that she's going to be interested in and have the ability to play with her friends as well as her family in a way that's going to connect her better to both herself, her friends, her family, and myself. Like, thought, effort, and work put into my gift, grandkid, grandchild, or grandfather, no thought and work put into the gift whatsoever. Both gifts are relevant, because they're still both Switches, but you can see how the meaning does change and alter the equation a little bit. So I'm with Pinky on that, at least in part. But then again, I am a really big proponent of intangibles alongside and as well as tangibles. Or, I could just use another quote here. If I have $1 million and give someone $1,000, and someone has 5 cents and gives someone 1 cent, then that 1 cent gift is worth more than the $1,000 is. Put that another way. Anyways. So this leads me to the final thing, and Lord Harrimont actually got there before me. The in-lore commercial break. Hang on, I want to go refill my cocoa. Alright, but hurry up, we're getting... Can I just say, in literally years, about 9 years now, of analyzing television, this might actually be the best commercial break I've ever seen in television. I'm actually not a big proponent of television breaks. In fact, for the Star Trek Rewrite project, we're kind of writing those as if commercials don't exist. And if you've watched TV in the last decade, you may have actually seen several shows where commercials don't exist, because so much of the digital release format doesn't include commercials baked in, and so several shows are no longer being made with commercial breaks built into the actual episode, where there's the moment where it's like da-da-da-da, fade to black. So we're kind of in that era now, and so it's kind of dying out, thank God. However, this is a really good commercial break. It's certainly better than Deep Space Nine's. Moving on. So, what does Snowfall think a better Equestria looks like? This is what I said I'd talk about earlier, because it's an interesting point, and it emphasizes something the episode completely fails to capitalize on. It's probably the only flaw in the entire episode, in my opinion, because there's an excellent point there the episode just jumps right over. Her philosophy, I wrote it down up here. Work hard, learn, use your skills to better Equestria, versus singing songs and being nice to help people. These are not mutually exclusive goals. And if I might be so bold, I tend to think that this is how that should be. Both. You know, hard work plus legitimate kindness being good, and the kind of thing that can lead to lasting and good change. And that these two things should actually go hand in hand. That you need a Pinkie Pie as much as you need a Twilight, to put it into extremely random ways of putting it. I don't know. I don't have much to say about that. It's funny how the episode kind of barely brings that up and immediately moves on, because now we have to get on to the best part of the episode, in my opinion. I love Luna as the Spirit of Future Present, or whatever. Spirit of Future. I love the song. In fact, so some of you may be aware, I've been keeping a list of the songs as we go throughout the whole show. I lost some of them when I had the computer trans over, but I still have most of them. And there's two categories of songs. There's the songs, and then there's the really good songs. And I put Luna's song up here in the really good songs, because this is a great song. Love it. Yeah, it's too short. That's the only downside of the song. It's still an excellent song. But more importantly, while this is a tale, it is, as I've said before, let me remind. While I think this is a tale, it is worth noting that if it's a tale to get across a point, like all tales are. And the point here is you need to keep the pattern going, otherwise Wendigos, right? I like to think that this is a pretty good presentation of what would happen if the Wendigos actually won, if they started pushing in and started crushing. We actually talked about this the last time the Wendigos came up. Do you think they're natural? I swear this has some relevance. See, I'm with Ect on that. I'll go ahead and give my opinion since I waited. This is a long pause here. I think that these are natural beings. That they are a natural aspect. You know, like ants or leaves or whatever. You know, yeah, there's no true sentience and sapience. Instead, that they are a byproduct of nature. And we've talked about many, many, many times, going as far back as Season 1, that the Equestria is not a natural place. That they have control over their environment, and that they dictate how it moves and how it works. And the animals, and the plants, and the sky, and the weather, right? We've talked about that constantly. The reason I bring this up is this would put this framing into the idea that the Wendigos represent the natural world, and the ponies represent the unnatural world and the constant conflict the two are in. Now, most fiction likes to portray unnatural as bad and natural as good. I'm not on that boat, and never have been. As I've said many, many times, civilization, the concept of civilization, is an unnatural thing. So much of what we do as human beings and people, good and bad, is unnatural. This is actually a theme that comes up quite a bit in Star Wars works, actually, as well, and has been a very prevalent theme within the AU, within the new Disneyverse, is because in the AU, the Force is natural, but that doesn't make it good. Quite the contrary. The Force, in many cases, actually has been seen as a force of bad, for lack of a better way to put it, even when it's the light side of the Force, that it leans itself so heavily towards this natural state, which by itself goes against what we unnatural beings are, right? You get the idea. And so I like this. I like this idea, and I like this presentation of it, that what we see in this world that is blanketed by ever-growing snow is what the world naturally should be. That's an interesting idea, Sean. And Imperial Star Destroyer is quite correct. These could represent entropy in a more or less literal sake of things, a literal presentation of things. By the way, just to get this opinion out there, I must say very firmly that I think that the whole natural good, unnatural bad thing comes entirely from Tolkien. Oh, don't mistake me, there's plenty of other workers and artists and musicians and writers across the centuries who have taken this particular tint on things, but we all know how much of an influence Tolkien has had on fiction for the last century and a half, or however long it's been. And Tolkien really pushed that element. He was very anti-industrialism, very anti-civilization, very pro getting back into, backing in with nature and blah, 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 blah. And he pushed that narrative point hard. Even if you've just seen the movies, you can see this. Look at how the Shire is shown in contrast to the orcs. And you're probably thinking, well, the orcs are ugly. Look past that for a second. Look at what they do. They chop down trees, all willy-nilly, and they build factories and machines of war, and they develop into an industry, and you get it. Industry in general is portrayed as bad, and I do think that a lot of that attitude can be traced back to Tolkien, just like so much of fiction draws from Tolkien one way or another, knowingly or otherwise. Anyways. I would say Tolkien was a shatterpoint, fictionally speaking, because certain specific points in fiction tend to have a big impact going forward. So we see this, sorry, getting back to the actual episode, so we see the horrible death doom. We know what the world looks like without the pattern. We've seen that actually already at the beginning of this season when they had the gray world with all of the time travel in the Cutie Remark thing. Well, you win then, Imperial Star Destroyer, because I don't know or care enough to argue it, so you win. So what that would mean then is people's misconception about that has then shaped that going forward. Or it doesn't come from Tolkien at all and people are just stupid. Take your pick. Either way, we've seen what the world is like when the pattern is completely destroyed. It's just gray death. So this is not that. This is something arguably worse. Either way, the literal representation of the natural is losing to the literal representation of the civilization, which means it's not all about singing in presence. The singing in presence are all about the people who are in our lives. Woo. Happy ending. Last point before we move forward. I love how Twilight invites Starlight, but doesn't pressure her. It's a very minor point, but it's important, because so much of fiction gets this exact point completely wrong. So much of fiction seems to assume that everyone's an extrovert, and everyone constantly wants to be a social butterfly. Now, I am an extrovert who is a social butterfly, but even I understand that that's not how everyone is. Offer the hand. Don't shove them through the door. And she does that. That's good. That's good. Now, Starlight does eventually accept it, which is fine. Starlight is the kind of person who needs friends. After all, we see what she's like in the absence of friends. But it is good that Twilight doesn't push that as a very important point that kids and adults both need to be learning. Holy crap. It's a lot of little good points. To return to that earlier point, though, because you got me thinking about it now, Imperial Star Destroyer. If it's not Tolkien, I wouldn't know where it's from. It could just be a repeating motif. At that point, it doesn't need to be from a Shatterpoint. I still absolutely think Tolkien is a Shatterpoint, historically speaking. But I'm wondering now, because it's either people misinterpreting his works, which has led to that prevalent theme in a lot of fiction over the last century or so, or it's just people doing that theme regardless of any other influence, which is entirely feasible. Tolkien was pretty anti that. I remember reading an interview from him where he was defending the Scourging of the Shire because that's what it was like when he got home from the Great War and everything was crap. And he wanted to put that into his work. Still don't like that. What? I was happy they left the Scourging of the Shire out of the movies. That's all I'm going to say about that. Of course, I like the movies better than the books, so what the hell do I know? The movies absolutely have the anti-industrial thing, 100%. Whether that's a reinterpretation or a misinterpretation, there is no denying that, I'm sorry. What's wrong with the Scourging of the Shire? Nothing, Mr. Red, nothing. We need to have Mr. Red executed immediately for questioning doctrine. I still don't have... I have Frostborn. I could go grab that. I don't have my knife. I keep having my knife in my kitchen. This is an excellent episode, in my opinion. This is... where are we at? This is by some dude I don't know. I remember that. There it is. Michael Vogel. First episode he's done. Never heard of this guy before. But it's a good outing. I'm actually impressed, legitimately. I'm not even... It would be difficult for me to name a bad part of this episode. Let's see, what do you write in the future, sir? I don't recognize most of these, so I'm guessing this is in the future. He apparently wrote the ending of the end. He wrote To Where and Back Again. I know that one. It's one of the only episodes from this point onward I've seen multiple times. I'm seeing a lot of votes for purple. So let me ask you this. I'm not opposed to it. But purple means there has to be some extra little oomph there. Some final that pushes it just above quality. Just like, you know, a lamentation requires an extra little oomph to go below bad. Purple requires an extra little oomph to go above great. What's the oomph in this one? In your opinions? Oh, I'm sorry, Lord Aramont. No, it's okay, Imperial Star. There's literally careers centered around centering Tolkien. That's actually why I shut that down so hard, because I knew that if we started talking about Tolkien, we would be here all day. I'm not against discussing it, I'm not against you. That I just want to explain that really quick. I'm running through the episode in my head to see if there's any oomph for me. I mean, it's clearly red. I think we can all agree on that. This is a damn good episode. It's probably... It is the best Christmas episode I've seen. If there's a better one after this, I don't remember it, or I don't know it. Or I haven't seen it. No, yeah, I'm sorry. I think I'm going to go ahead and give it a red, just because I can't come up with something for that final push to purple. Still a damned good episode. At some point, I'll have to come up with more colors. At some point. If this is the Streamination format, right? I mean, we already actually invented a new color for this series with Princess Spike. No, Act. I am not. I'm not even sure I own it. If I do, it's not here, so no. Yes, next week, sorry, let's get back to things, because I gotta get some groceries before I go cover. We will be having the Star Trek restream tonight. Might be one of the last ones for a while, just as an FYI on that one. But next, here, let me cut off the recording.